Well, Friday night brings us Game 4 of these NBA Finals, and if you're the type of person who enjoys watching history being made, you might want to tune in because the Golden State Warriors are looking to become the first team in NBA history to make it through an entire postseason without losing a game. The Warriors had swept their 3 series heading into these finals, and they have now taken a 3-0 lead on the Cleveland Cavaliers. Again, they look to complete the sweep on Friday night in Cleveland. Golden State is a 6-point favorite at BetSafe, 228.5, the total in this game. Now look, the Warriors might be the best team we've ever seen. I do believe they're the best offensive team we've ever seen. That being said, the Cavs really blew Game 3. They really let that game get away from them. Had to be absolutely sick afterwards. You could tell in the post-game interviews, the players just dejected and bitter, as you would be. I mean, Cleveland finally did what they had to do. You know, heading into this series, many people, myself included, thought it was going to be competitive, high-scoring. Well, there was only one team apparently that got that memo through the first 2 games because it was not a contest. Golden State did what we expected them to do, but the Cavs didn't show up, especially on the offensive end. You know, throughout these playoffs, the Cavs have been almost as good as the Warriors offensively. Golden State, number 1 in the NBA this postseason, averaging just over 118 points per game, but Cleveland, number 2, averaging just over 116 per game. And they tore through the Eastern Conference playoffs just about as easily as Golden State tore through the Western Conference playoffs. But Game 1 of this series, Cleveland produced just 91 points after scoring 106 or more in every game this postseason. And again, they didn't have it rolling in Game 2 either. Both those games turned out to be Warriors blowouts. But Game 3, a different story. Cleveland was themselves offensively. And critically, they got help from outside of their big 3. We had talked about heading into Game 3 how Cleveland, throughout Games 1 and 2, really it had been only the big 3 of LeBron, Kyrie, and Kevin Love. As a matter of fact, in those 2 games, the other 10 Cavaliers that saw time combined for 54 points. Over 2 games, 10 guys combining for 54 points. Obviously, that does not get it done, but Game 3, it changed a little bit, as we thought it would, with the Cavs heading back to Cleveland. J.R. Smith and Kyle Korver, for example, hit some outside shots. Those 2 guys combined for 7 for 16 from deep. LeBron James with another huge game. Kyrie Irving with a big game. Kevin Love struggled, but still, the Cavs with 113 points, and they had 113 with 3:09 remaining. And, you know, when I say the Cavs blew this game, if you did not see the end of the game, I'm not sure you fully appreciate what I'm talking about. Cleveland had a 6-point lead with less than 3 minutes remaining. And again, they did not score in the final 3:09. And it was just some bad basketball. LeBron James passed up a couple of shots maybe he should have shot. Kyrie Irving, particularly Cleveland's next to last possession, right after Kevin Durant hit a big 3 to put the Warriors up 1. Cavs got the ball with about 40 seconds left. They could have had a 2-for-1 opportunity, but instead Kyrie Irving dribbled it around for 10 or 15 seconds in a one-on-one ISO situation, ended up taking a step-back 3 that missed badly. So the Cavs had to foul Kevin Durant intentionally because by that time there was only 15 or 20 seconds left. So Durant made the free throws. Warriors went up 3, and again, they went on to win by 5. So the Cavs, again, it was just ugly there towards the end. It was very unusual because they were so free-flowing and productive throughout the first 3.5 quarters, really moving the ball well. LeBron James being very aggressive, taking the ball to the hole. But again, it all sort of disappeared and dissipated over the final 3:09. Now, maybe that was because the Cavs were just worn down. I mean, these guys are logging some heavy minutes, especially LeBron. LeBron playing 46 minutes in Game 3. Now, it is true that the Cavs just totally disintegrate every time LeBron sits. I mean, I believe the only 2 minutes he rested the entire game with that little breather he got towards the end of the first quarter. And I know as soon as he went out there at the end of the first quarter, Golden State immediately went on a 10-0 run. So if you're Tyronn Lue, if you're LeBron James, you have to feel like, hey, as soon as I come out of the game, or if you're Lue, as soon as I take this guy out of the game, everything just collapses. Still, though, LeBron James with 46 minutes, Kyrie Irving with 44. As a comparison, Steph Curry only played 39 minutes. So, of course, he probably was a little fresher towards the end of the game. Speaking of the end of the game, and speaking of being fresh, and speaking of just being a tremendous player, what about Kevin Durant and what he has done throughout this series? Durant will be named Finals MVP, assuming Golden State wraps this up here in the next game or two, averaging 34 a game in the series, 31 in Game 3, 14 in the fourth quarter, including that dagger 3 that we talked about just a moment ago with less than a minute left. He pulled up right in LeBron's face. And the Cavs had been leading the game prior to that point for at least 4 or 5 game minutes. So it was a big moment when Durant stepped up and hit that three. And again, Kyrie Irving could not respond on the other end. So now it's 3-0 Golden State. And we know the history. No team in league history has ever come back from a 3-0 deficit in the NBA Finals. 12-0 are teams who have gone up 3-0 in the finals. Now, we know that prior to last year, no team had ever erased a 3-1 deficit in the NBA Finals, and Cleveland did just that against this Golden State team. But it wasn't really this Golden State team, was it? Kevin Durant was in Oklahoma City at that time, and like we said, Durant, he's been the best player in this series. 34 points per game, guy has been nearly unstoppable, and when you have the Splash Brothers there, I mean, as second and third options, Steph Curry with 26 points in Game 3, Klay Thompson finally finding his stroke, 30 points, 6 of 11 from three-point range. What are you going to do? I mean, you're not going to slow down this team. So if you're Cleveland, like we've been saying all series, like we said heading into Game 3, you've really got to match their firepower with firepower of your own. And Cleveland did that throughout Game 3. But here heading into Game 4, it's going to go one of two ways, I believe. I believe Cleveland is either going to find some professional pride and say, hey, we're not going to get swept, not here in front of our home fans. Keep in mind, Cavs are just so good at Quicken Loans Arena throughout this season. But, I don't think it's going to go that way. I actually think it's going to go the other way. Just watching the end of the game, watching the way the Cavs players were post-game in their interviews, watching LeBron James' expansive interview today. I mean, he gave a long interview today. Don't know if you saw that. He was very introspective, more than usual. Sounded like the type of interview a player usually gives when he's cleaning out his locker, not when he's in the middle of a finals series. So I'm just getting the feeling this Cavs team right now, they're a beaten team. I believe Golden State really broke their spirit with what went down in the end of that Game 3. And I'm just not sure the Cavs are going to be able to pull it back together here in 48 hours and put up the kind of fight they're going to need to put up to beat this historically great Warriors team. So look, I do like Golden State to complete the sweep here and win Game 4. And hey, I like them to cover that 6-point number, and why not? Now, 21 of the last 22 times these teams have met, the point spread has not ended up mattering, meaning the winning team has either been, or the favored team has either won by more points than they were favored by, or the underdog has won outright. So when these teams meet up, at least 21 of the last 22 times, the point spread has not mattered. I'm going to stick with that trend. I'm going to take the Warriors here in Game 4. I'm going to give the 6 points. I also like under 228.5, by the way. And we've done well totals in this series. We're 3-0 so far. The totals in this series haven't done quite as well on the sides, just 1 and 2 on the sides. But Golden State -6, under 228.5, my recommendation for this Game 4. Hey, enjoy the game, folks, and I wish you best of luck, just so long as your interests don't conflict with my interests. For Bet Safe, I'm John Arnett.